The new policy actors, I don't think I need to run through those. Certainly business associations, not only the National Chamber of Commerce and National Manufacturers Association, but spend about an hour on the Education Industry Association website, and your hair will stand on end. I mean, it's really, this is the for-profit sector's agenda for education. They're the ones that got the vouchers through No Child Left Behind for Kaplan and Sylvan and the tutoring stuff. They wanted to voucherize the whole system, but that's all they got. Political strategies, I won't go into. I'm sure you're familiar with the ways that policies is leveraged through Race to the Top. Murray Edelman's work, who I think is from Wisconsin, he was here at Wisconsin, right on the political spectacle and the way if you can define something as a crisis, then you can determine the solution, right? Discursive strategies, again, I won't go through this in too much detail, but just to give one example, the Bush administration's effort to replace equal educational opportunity with achievement gap, and that was done systematically through all the language in Washington, which essentially shifts the focus from the notion of resources and opportunity to the notion of outcomes of an achievement gap through, as defined by test scores. So our attention becomes shifted to outcomes away from resources, which is sort of classic new public management, neoliberal kind of strategy. And I think it was Gloria Ladson-Billings here who began to call the achievement gap the opportunity gap, right, as in a way of sort of reclaiming that previous language. Now I'm getting down to actual ALEC. The previous was sort of, in broad strokes. In ALEC's case specifically, the new modalities are this internal public-private partnership with the corporate and public sector. Embedded in ideologically compatible policy networks or strategic alliances. We didn't study those networks in great detail, but what we're doing now with the state policy network, we're finding a lot of linkages globally through the Atlas networks and Liberty networks, which are larger networks of think tanks and new policy entrepreneurs globally, so that you have whole countries like Brazil or India that now have their own version of state policy networks and think tanks throughout the state promoting the same kinds of policies that ALEC is promoting. So you can look at, one of my doc students is from Chile, and she's looking at a group called Desarrollo y Libertad, which is Development and Liberty, which is a conservative think tank in Chile, and you can go and look at the kinds of laws they're passing through there and see that they're very similar to the ones in ALEC and very similar to the ones in Singapore and very similar to the ones in Hungary and wherever you look. Right? So you're seeing this policy convergence and policy borrowing that's going on globally with a considerable amount of influence through these various, in many cases, corporate-funded entities, and all of those countries have their own variations on the Koch brothers and Bill Gates and so on that are funding many of these organizations. They become a direct conduit for corporations to make policy, part lobbyist, part think tank, part public relations firm.